Welcome to the Lock-In, episode 9. Dara is here with me. You might be wondering what I'm doing wearing this. And actually, Dara, if you want to engage your mic and talk.
Yeah, this was not one of our better ideas, I don't think.
I think this will be forever known, episode 9, where they decided to go for some prop comedy, and that's usually the beginning of the end, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. It could have been even worse, because when you sent the message yesterday going, do you have a shower cap? I was pretty sure we didn't, so I asked Maria, and she was like, just put underpants on your head. It's the same thing.
Well, we didn't have to put underpants on our head. We found shower caps. The reason for that, of course, is our guest this week is the one, the only, Luke Vrabel AKA Slaydog. Welcome to the show.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here with you fine gentlemen.
What do you think of the effort we've made just for you?
I love it. You guys look great.
I did notice you, just as we before we took off here, you did inhale from a device, and I was wondering if you might just think you'd hit that device a little bit hard.
Oh no, that's just nicotine, but I could smoke some drugs on stream too if you guys want.
Not sure. We've been reasonably well patched up here, and our sponsors around. We might. But
I keep it PG-13 anyway. I only smoke the good stuff, you know.
Well, look, it really ain't that big a deal. We had Jamie on the show last week. She was our last guest, and we were talking to her about how in an alternate universe, she would have been in the commentary box at the World Series. Sort of talking people through bust outs galore as it would have been hitting the end stages. Of course, in that same alternate universe, you would be also involved in all these bust outs that will be taking place, showering them on social media.
You know, honestly, I was a little worried that, you know, the encore wouldn't be as good as the original. So maybe an extra year off will give me more power when it comes back. But I think the demand is still there. People love to see me make fun of people, so I'll keep doing it.
Well, so much so, I believe the demand is there. That, am I right in saying you might have been pulling our leg here, but you did tweet out about a week ago that someone from GG had approached you with the view to maybe showering people online. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm pissed off about that, actually. The guy messaged me, some British fellow, one of your guys. I mean, I don't know where the hell you guys are from, but
whatever.
Oh, Dara's from Ireland. Lappin, you're from Ireland also?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
close enough. Okay, yeah, no, you're not British. Anyway.
Lappin's what Irish people call a West Brit, which is the biggest insult an Irish person can say to another Irish person.
You know, I'm part Irish, actually.
Oh, that explains a lot.
That does explain it, to be honest.
But anyways, so this freaking British fuck hits me up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we know, mate. We want you to do some showers for us on the GG Poker podcast." And I was like, "Oh great, this sounds awesome. I'm in." You know. And then he's like, "But I have to run it up to my bosses." Okay. Right when he said he had to run it up to his bosses, I knew I was done for. You know what I mean? Like. Once you got to go to Daniel Negreanu and you know, the Poker Go people, I knew that I would never hear from the man again. So he never got back to me, so I blocked him, and you know, that's it.
Well, speaking of blocking, you did mention to us just again before we took off that you prefer being in the dominant position of blocker and are particularly pissed off when you become blockee. What happened today?
I don't like getting blocked. That's true. Today I was blocked by Marl Cardaro, who I don't even follow because her takes are just so freaking awful. I had to unfollow her, but I was alerted to a conversation because you know, I keep my eyes on things, and you know, I said, "Oh, that's another terrible take from Marl's," which is, you know, that's pretty tame. That's not that bad. All I said was it was a terrible take, and she blocked me. So, you know, I don't like being blocked. I like to do the blocking myself. So I was a little upset about that. But now I'm blocked by most of the people whose views I just can't stand. So maybe that's good for my sanity.
I did notice that I watched that episode, and I did notice that there was a little bit of friction between Marley and Jamie over that thing. I hope they makeup off camera. It was a little tense. They were there with Ryan DePaulo, who I guess is becoming a bit of a star in poker right now. Dara, did you follow the story of Ryan and his incredible result in the car parking lot of a Whole Foods?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great story. It kind of sums up the way the WSOP has been going, let's say, where, I mean, Vrabel actually joked to me last year that in 5 or 10 years' time, the WSOP would be like a 50,000 runner. The main event would be 50,000 runner, $50 freeze out. It'd be running in the car park in the Rio, that we wouldn't even be allowed into the Rio. So and we saw our former guest Rob Campbell getting his bracelet in the car park last year. So car parks seem to be a recurring theme now with the WSOP. It's the World Series of car parks.
Well, it's funny. Like at some level, it's obviously a great story because particularly because he's a blogger, he's very entertaining. He's a funny guy, and the way he sort of pulled it off was really funny. And he had like a third place finish in the Colossus last year, so he's had a couple of nice touches now. I know he's basically just gone pro this year, so amazing result from him. He's kind of the star of the show, but actually coming back to you, Luke, one of your pals, Miguel Fiesta. Michael Lech.
Oh, Mikey. Yeah, you guys know Mikey?
Tell us about him.
Mike's like a man of the world. He travels to all these countries. He's just like one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. Never angry about anything. And he plays a real different style. Like most people would watch him play and they would say, "Oh, this guy, what's he doing?" But he's he's what I'd call a natural. Like, I've never seen anything like it the way he plays, but he just crushes everything. It's crazy. Like, people will watch him play, they think that he's friggin' just clicking buttons, but he's just dominant. He just dominates. So I was happy to see him win a bracelet. And DePaulo, like, how about this freaking guy? This guy's nuts. Like, he's a little crazy. Don't really know what he's talking about, what he's doing. Sometimes you see him and you're like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? But then other times you see him and you're like, wow, this guy speaks to me. Like, I can relate to that guy. Like, me and that guy, like, I feel like we would have a nice little yin and yang. And I don't know. I like what he's fucking bringing to the table, though. In the parking lot, like, you got to love that. Like, seemed like he might have been on drugs. Like, you got to love it. You know what I mean? Like if you're sitting in a parking lot all night, you got to be on something. Like, I can't imagine he was sober for that. And he wins $160K in the parking lot. Like, how can you not love that? Come on. Like, that's America right there.
That is. It was probably the most stable internet connection he'd had all week. That, he'd been sort of flitting around the outskirts of Jersey or whatever you have to do. And he said actually he finally got a solid connection at Whole Foods. But had he known he would win it, he feels now like it's a bit tarnished that it was outside of Whole Foods and not like outside something a bit seedier.
Yeah, Whole Foods is a little too bougie, as they say.
It's very bougie.
Like, if he would have been at like a 7-Eleven, but they don't have Wi-Fi. Or he must have had his own Wi-Fi. You got to figure.
I think he was hopping between the strip mall Wi-Fi and his phone.
And the phone hotspot, yeah, because Whole Foods has quality Wi-Fi.
Right. I wonder if that means now that Whole Foods parking lots are going to be absolutely jammed with people playing on their phones, because the word will get around that this is where you get the best Wi-Fi.
The luckiest Wi-Fi too. And
the wrong good Wi-Fi too. Yeah, poker players being so.
I don't blame him. Hotels are real expensive around New York City. You probably didn't want to pay $200 for a few hours.
It's pretty surreal that this is what it's come to. That not only do people have to play on their phones, but they actually have to drive to another state and find somewhere they can park that has reasonable Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, man. I mean, it's been 9 years, and we still don't have legalized poker here.
Yeah,
and it's brutal. And now you got the WSOP running 2 separate series at the same time. It's just kind of, it's cool, but it's kind of a joke too at the same time.
Well, I want to get to that, and I definitely want to get your take, Luke. But I want to go to you first, Dara. Were you playing last weekend when GG had their issues? I know you are planning to play a decent chunk of the GG events.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I did actually. As Luke tweeted me afterwards, congratulations on making it day 2, because The tournament lasted only 4 and a bit levels, and I only managed to lose half my stack in that time. So,
hell of a run.
So technically, I'm into my first day 2. But yeah, I was playing. It was infuriating as hell. I couldn't really understand what the problem was either, because other tournaments were running normally. It was a very weird DDoS attack, if that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think their servers just weren't prepared or something.
Yeah,
but
perhaps.
How are they doing it? How are they going to make everyone who registered last week play? Like, you'd think they would just cancel the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, basically, it just disappeared from the lobby, and it reappeared yesterday with all our stacks back, and they sent us all a message saying it's starting again on Sunday at the same time as it started last Sunday. But I mean, that's
preposterous.
There are people who can't play this weekend who entered the tournament last weekend, assuming it will be over by the following weekend. So yeah, it
doesn't make sense to me.
I think they've dealt with it really badly too, because I mean, obviously DDoS attacks are inevitable, and you can't really blame poker sites, but you can blame them for their response, and the response has been just downright bizarre. First of all, postponing for a week. Secondly, they announced, oh, we're going to compensate everybody for the frustration, and the compensation was basically they doubled the charitable donation, which, you know, is nice, but that's how does that compensate the players exactly? It's like saying, oh, we'll give everybody $100, but actually we're not giving you the $100, we're going to give it to COVID.
They should have friggin' done it in the first place, right? I mean, that always rubs me the wrong way when the venue is like, hey, we're running this charity tournament, and then they give $0. Yeah. All the players have to give, but we're not giving anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, you know, they're organizing the tournament. So, like, technically they're doing something. They're raising the money. The money wouldn't have been going there. But, like, with an online site, it's like, do we even trust these people that they're actually making the donation? Like, who verifies this? Yeah. Who verifies this? You know what I mean? It's just, it rubs me the wrong way. Yeah. The whole thing with GG rubs me the wrong way because, you know, a lot of Americans have supposedly been playing on there. And now all of a sudden they have a problem with it, and they're sending out these emails like, oh, you have to prove to us that you're in another country. And, you know, being that we're Americans, we're not even allowed to leave our country anymore because we're such a freaking joke. So people have to provide proof. I mean, I'd imagine if you just send them some bullshit itinerary, they're going to let you play. But it just seems disingenuous to me, because they had a bunch of their agents going around to American players and telling them, hey, come play on this site. You can use a VPN. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And now they're like confiscating funds, and it just seems like very dishonest to me. I don't know. I would never do such a thing as play on a site like that. Obviously. That goes without saying. I follow the letter of the law.
Always. You are known for that. Dara, I have to say, we did predict this on the very last show. We spoke with Jane. You predicted it. She predicted it.
Yeah.
And you both had a chance to speak on it. It was essentially sort of what Luke is saying. The agents went round. People were encouraged to play. There was kind of a suggestion that a blind eye might be made. But then
absolutely.
Jamie said, you know, well, that's all very well and good, but, like, you know, we can't actually leave. So we're definitely going to be forced to VPN or not play. So a lot of these people are going to be VPNing. And then you made the very valid point, which is that, well, actually what normally happens in these spots is, like, lose all your money on a VPN, but win any money on a VPN, and now you're fucked.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing. It's like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there were all sorts of ambiguous statements coming from, you know, their representatives saying, oh, well, Americans can take whatever steps they need to play given the current situations. So it sounded like they were more or less saying, wink, wink, use a VPN. But now people are actually getting caught. Actually, the WSOP in general, it's kind of weird. Like, the guy that Ryan beat heads up is a English pro that you and I know, David, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been playing all the WSOP.com events. So that means presumably he must be either in Jersey or Vegas right now. But he's also playing the GG events, which in theory you're not allowed to play from there. So, like, how does that work exactly?
Yeah, you gotta maybe you have to have like one arm in each province. You know, you have to. There's like a few places in America where you can be in like 4 different states at the same time with each limb. Maybe
I guess you could be at the border in California and just.
You got your Canadian phone here in this hand, and you got your American phone in the other.
Yeah. Speaking of America, Lappin, I got a little bone to pick with you.
Row.
You've been giving my boys a tough time on your Twitter, you know. I mean, I get it. Like, you know, like it's okay if I say it. It's okay if I say it, but you know, like, come on, man. Like, lay off a little, you know. Like, come on.
I feel very close still to America. We used to live in only a couple of miles apart. Back in what was it, like late 2000s, 2008 to 10, maybe something like that.
That's crazy, and we didn't even know each other. Too bad.
Yeah, so you lived there 10 years ago. That obviously gives you the right to criticize America for the rest of the time, David.
Exactly, yeah. If you've spent any amount of years there.
You spent 2 years there. I mean, you're practically American, like.
I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong about anything he's saying. I'm just saying it's like, come on, buddy. Like, you know, like I think of America, we're like the attention whore of countries. You know what I mean? Like, we love it either way. We just want everyone to read our tweets. You know what I mean? Like, and everyone gobbles that shit up too. Like, everyone's like, "Ooh, America! Like, what's going on over there?" You know.
What did you make of your president's ability to remember 5 words yesterday?
Oh, very impressed. I'm very impressed. Can't wait for his second
He did
term.
it twice. He remembered it back twice in the same interview.
Oh yeah, he is on point.
And 3 of the words were almost the same word, so like
He can also recognize what an elephant is when he sees a drawing of an elephant. So, yeah, America's obviously in great hands.
Were you aware that we won 2 beautiful world wars?
they were so beautiful. The most beautiful wars.
Completely without any help from the Russians or the British, anyone. We won them. The beautiful, beautiful world wars. We won them both.
Yeah.
Right out of Fort Bragg.
2 for 2. 2 for 2 in
Beautiful
World Wars.
Wars has me rolling. I've been using that. I'm going to use that line for years.
Joking aside, though, how do you feel about sort of the lockdown? I guess, you know, this show sort of began in the context of the lockdown, and Ireland over those months has sort of, you know, slowly made its way out. It's getting to quite a good place now relatively. I'm super lucky in Malta. We've been basically normal for 7 weeks, not COVID free, but like just a sprinkling of cases, almost no deaths. And that's been great. We've been able to sort of live our lives normally, and it being a small island, we could sort of lock most of the rest of the world away, although we have now opened the border again. America, a completely different kettle of fish, obviously a more difficult country to manage, it's fair to say. The federal system does make it complicated, but it does seem fair that it's been abject failure on the part of the federal side. State by state, maybe slightly better and slightly worse responses. You're in Connecticut, where I used to live. How has it been there? It's been one of the better states, right?
Yeah, Connecticut's actually the best state, the only state at the moment that has the virus under control. I actually moved to Massachusetts, but Mass is okay. I mean, it's embarrassing, man. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's embarrassing. People refuse to wear the masks. They refuse to have their lives altered. We're all arguing over every little fucking detail. I mean, it's embarrassing. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, I mean, I mean, it's all already been said. I don't know what to make of it, but I mean, I think Americans are very selfish and we're very entitled. And we grew up, you know, in the 90s, and a lot of people in my age group at least, and we seem to think that, you know, we don't have to make any sacrifices because that's kind of how we were raised. Like, I'm not blaming our parents, but like, we grew up in a very, I mean, I'm not going to say we for everyone, but I'm speaking for like white people who grew up in, you know, relatively comfortable areas, which is a large portion of the population. We just don't have any sort of selfless bone in our body. And I think that's really coming forward in the whole COVID thing. And then you've got the awful government leadership. And it's really bad, man. It really is. Like, I know you guys aren't here, but it's really bad. A lot of people are very strapped for money. I read a stat that 33% of people didn't make their house payments in the month of July or June or whatever they were doing that calculation. Like, that's scary shit, man. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. The cases are spiking. Vegas is on fire right now. Arizona, Florida. I mean, it's a mess, man, and it's sad.
Yeah, it does feel as though as we kind of get towards the autumn and winter months, that's where containment's so important, because a second wave during a vulnerable time where the more vulnerable people are likely to get sick and die from it, frankly, and where a lot of people getting it at once will put a huge demand on ventilators and in the different hospitals. It is so concerning because, whereas in Ireland we've done that thing with the curve where it's back down to kind of pretty low levels, Malta the same, a lot of European countries, even the ones that were pretty badly hit initially, are kind of putting manners on it. Where America, as you say, it's actually a higher number than ever. There's 2 million active cases today, and that's, growing by 75, 80,000 every day. So with those phenomenal numbers, you're talking about then maybe entering into an autumn, a late autumn, a winter with no ability to contain it, no ability to, stop the spread when that many people have it. And then I think you're talking about a bloodbath.
I mean, I don't know, man. The president just the other day finally came out in support of masks, which is like 4 months in. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know, man. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. And then it's like, is this just going to be like this forever? Like, I don't know, man. This is uncharted territory.
Yeah, it is very much so. Dara, to segue back to sort of, I guess, the realm of gambling or whatever.
Yeah, let's go back to poker.
One area that we often talk about, I don't bet on sports. I know you don't anymore either. But I would have an odd punt on politics. And we would talk about the politics line on different things. And it would certainly feel as though, bizarrely, despite how maybe, particularly from a European perspective, Trump seems to have had a mess of 4 years. He was doing okay until this happened. He was actually, it's COVID which is going to get him, if he's got in 100 days' time, more than Biden or the Democratic Party or their whole system of primarying someone.
Yeah, he was a very strong odds-on favourite until coronavirus hit on the betting exchanges and with the bookies, and then it obviously started to move with COVID, and now he's out to almost 2-1. But I would say that there's a danger in the way that people process sort of information like that. When they look at Biden now as a very strong favourite, a lot of people in their minds, they think, oh, that means he's going to win, that it's kind of a race and he's leading or whatever. All it really means is that it's like 60 to 70% likely that he's going to win, but there's still a 30 to 40% chance that Trump bounces back. And big leads have more of a tendency to erode than to get bigger. Obviously, that's just the nature of thing. He's got more people to hang on to. So we don't really know what's going to happen. I think a lot of politics, when you look back, people apply narratives to it and they say, oh, this happened because of that, etc. But it's like everything else. I mean, it is probabilistic, and it's essentially there's a lot of random variables going into the same thing. So we can't really say what's going to happen. Right now, it does look that Biden's a fairly strong favorite to win the election and unseat Trump. But, it's pretty unusual for a sitting president not to get reelected in the States.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. It does seem for me, if you can kind of get any shred of positivity from polls, which I know aren't the final election, aren't the final outcome, it does seem like maybe when the shit hits the fan, or when actually you need a leader to govern, which I suppose in a crisis more so than ever, he's just been asleep at the wheel, that's made people maybe wake up to the fact that, like, having an entertaining sideshow circus president is actually kind of awful when there's real world consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the polling data recently. For me, the most interesting thing was not that people thought that Biden would have done a better job on the pandemic. I mean, I think pretty much anybody would have done a better job than Trump did on the pandemic, or that Biden would be better on the world stage. I think even a lot of Trump supporters could recognize that might be the case. But interestingly, in the last poll that came out, they found that a very slight majority of people actually thought that Biden would handle the economy better, which is traditionally the preserve of the Republicans. And elections do tend to be won and lost mostly on the economy. I mean, when Clinton pulled off the huge upset back in the 90s, he really just focused on the economy. The slogan was, it's the economy, stupid. So if people are now thinking, okay, well, maybe Trump hasn't done as amazing job as he's constantly crowing on the economy, then I think that could be the final nail in the coffin for him. But, that could turn around as well. I mean, the Republicans are nothing if not resilient. And in our lifetime, we've had some Republican presidents leave their country in a bit of a mess, and yet 8 or 10 years later, the Republicans come back. So, and as I said, it's very hard to unseat a sitting president.
Well, the good news is that the greatest gambling mind of our time, Matt Glantz, is on Biden's side. So no fear. If Glantz is on Biden, we're all set. Don't worry. Don't worry about it.
Well, look, we will move the subject back to completely away from politics now, although that was a worthy segue, I thought, because I was really keen to get both your perspectives on that. We're having sort of a summer of overlay online. I don't mean to make you feel jealous. I know you can't play the vast majority of this stuff, but I suppose the sites that are really exposing themselves right now, Dara, are Stars in a profound way. Stars have done 1.4 million in overlay in the last 17 days alone, and they're entering into the period of their stadium series, which is actually bigger. So good luck to them. And you know what, good luck to all the players who, do you know what, as poker players, we get fucked by rake plenty. So it's nice to, you know, actually have a bit of that return in some form or another. So good luck if you're playing. It looks like the WPT series on Party Poker is starting to feel vulnerable to some overlays as well. Dara, just in a very broad sense, you know, because every site will have them, every tournament organizer will expose themselves to that risk of a guarantee and get overlaid once in a while. Is it bad for poker? Is it good for poker? Or is it sort of a mixture?
I think it's very much a mixture. It kind of depends on who's overlaying. Like, it's very hard to feel any sympathy for Stars overlaying, because essentially all they're doing is they're giving back some of the money they took from their best clients in previous years. That said, I mean, I don't want to keep hating on Stars. It is, to be fair, like the thing about Stars traditionally was that they never even took the slightest risk with overlays. That was the way the company was run, and that seems to have changed. So at least they're making more of an effort now to boost the player pool by putting more aggressive guarantees, which they're not always hitting. So when it's somebody like Stars, it is very hard to feel sympathy for them. When it's somebody like Party, who have been hit a lot in the past with overlays as well and keep coming back and taking it on the chin, I think I would have a lot more sympathy. To answer your broader question, I mean, it's obviously good for players in the short term if there's an overlay. Like, you know, your buy-in can become 1.2 buy-ins or 1.3 buy-ins just by virtue of the fact that there's an overlay. But it's not good in the long term, because sites won't, you know, or live organizers, they won't allow this situation to continue indefinitely. They'll cut back on guarantees. They'll maybe stop running tournaments. I always feel particularly sorry for like independent live tournament organizers when they have an overlay. That's horrible to see. Somebody puts a lot of work for a few months into running a big event. They put up an aggressive guarantee. They don't hit it, and they end up losing their shirt on it. And there are people who for whom the upside isn't particularly big. Like, even if they have a very successful tournament, it's not like someone like Stars that benefits from people coming on every night. It's just a one-off. So I always feel very, very sorry for those people. And I think it is bad for live poker in general when you see a lot of overlays, because that dissuades other people from running big tournaments then.
Yeah, coming to you now, Luke, on that one. I suppose a common theme that Dara and I cover both on the podcast and on this show when we get a chance, and just maybe a subject that we've spoken about a lot over our careers, is that sort of sustainability of the ecosystem. Well, we work for Unibet Poker. They've always had a very particular vision on how to grow a poker site. It's a bit more slow and steady and gradual, but they want it to be a sustainable model that's, I suppose, doesn't aggressively bring in grinders, doesn't aggressively bring in pros, doesn't attract them with, you know, necessarily great rewards, because it wants to sort of maintain a healthy ecosystem. That's something that we believe in. Also, Unibet brought in some rake-free games, which we thought was really good around COVID, so that people could play rake-free home games. That was obviously a way to acquire customers for the upside for Unibet, but it also, I think, was a nice way to give back. As a general question, because you've been around the game as long as us, do you, as a player, care about the ecosystem? Do you sort of feel invested in that story, in that sort of, you know, maybe mix all the sites together and all the live operators and kind of go, is this a healthy world, and can it kind of keep going?
Well, to be honest with you, I do care a lot. I don't think a lot of players do. I think, you know, well, you know, like basically I barely qualify as a poker player at this point. Especially when it comes to the international sites, seeing as I don't even get to play on them. But back in my day, like, you know, it was a lot different. But I think it's like a lot of short-sightedness maybe with like, but like they're running like 3 concurrent series at the same time. I just don't see how this was going to work ever. And like the WPT thing is basically all for pros. Like no, like I don't know, like who's playing a fucking 10K or whatever, or like a 3,500. Like the huge guarantees, like if they miss them, you know, is it good? Is it bad? I can't really say for sure. This is such a unique situation going on right now. I really don't know. Like, and what, Stars is going to run the W Coupe again, like next month? Like, I don't know. It just seems like people are running out of money. Like, I know for me, it's like with people, it's either during the freaking pandemic, someone's either up 300,000 or they're, you know, looking for a new career. Like, you know, there's no like in between. Like people are either crushing or they're getting crushed. And the more series you run, I mean, I guess it sways it a little bit, but I don't know.
And also maybe the more big series you run, because I guess if you have a normal everyday weekly tournament, nightly tournament where there's a few hundred people and there's 20 quid games and 50 quid games and it all works up, the money does move around. The people who are on a budget can lose a little bit and feed into it. The guys who are doing well can move up slowly. And the variance isn't so horrible and people can actualize their edges if they have them and whatnot. Whereas what strikes me about just the everlasting huge series, massive field series is we know only too well. Like the World Series is a great example of this. Huge fields. We all show up to Vegas, you know, once a year, and it's an enormous festival of wealth redistribution. You know, but fucking 90% of people go home crying. 5% of people maybe go home with their shirt, and 5% of people are fucking delighted and they've made loads of money and they probably added a zero to their bank balance and that's all great for them. But actually, in reality, it's an unsustainable model. It's because we only do it once a year. It's fine. This perpetual series that we've had, these like whatever 5 or 6 now back-to-back online big ones with big fields, basically means all the money's ending up in very few people's accounts. And like you said, people are just going to fucking run out of money.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say about the other thing I would say quickly about the WSOP before letting Luke get in on the point is that what makes the WSOP unique is that it's this massive injection of recreational money every year. Like most of the money actually comes from recreational players. That isn't the case with the online series that are going on right now. There isn't anything like the same infusion of recreational money.
No, exactly. And like online GG, like, you know, the fields are big, but you know, you got to figure it's mostly pros.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's making a living there, and that's going to be a sad end to the summer, I feel, for maybe players and the sites ultimately who aren't going to make much money. The final thing I wanted to talk to you about, Luke, because it's something you weighed in on pretty heavily on Twitter, is a tweet by Matt Hunt. Actually, I was really surprised to see this one from him. And you know, obviously, if he sees the show and wants to sort of answer us, or if we get any of this wrong, by all means, we'll engage him in a dialogue about it. But he did tweet complaining about rake in a poker tournament is absurd. Rake is literally just the price you pay to enter the event. You may as well walk into Walmart and yell at the cashier because the Pop-Tarts are overpriced. Luke, why is he so fucking wrong here?
I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, what? I need to gather my thoughts because I think my response to him was that it's the worst tweet I've ever seen in my life, and I was not exaggerating. And like that guy, I don't know him that well, but I see his tweets pop up. He usually, you know, has some pretty good tweets. Like I'm not like trying to slam this guy because he seems like a fine guy, but for the love of God, like what comparison could you possibly make to a guy complaining about raking a poker tournament to walking into Walmart and bitching at a cashier? Like, what other avenue do players have to express their views other than Twitter? I mean, like, where else are you going to be heard? I mean, the rake for the WSOP events, they had a 950 plus 50, which is fine. And then they had a 700 plus 77. Well, where do you come up with this shit? I mean, I don't know, man. Like, that's just, that tweet was, and then Berkey chimed in, and Berkey is a real galaxy brain. Sometimes Berkey actually makes good points. Like, I'm not even going to fucking slam Berkey that much because I don't mind Berkey. But then, like, other times, I just get so angry at the things that he says. And it's a lot of, like, you know, making people want to sound smarter than everyone else. So they're like, well, if you're running a business, yada, yada, yada. It's like, man, shut up. Like, I don't know. And then Berkey said in one of his replies to me that, oh, well, you know, poker players should find another form of income. And it's like, oh, that's the poker dream now, is like, oh, you know, like, oh, you know, make $20K a year and then fucking, you know, walk some dogs on the side. Like, bro, what happened to the dream? I became a poker player because I wanted to be lazy. Because I'm lazy and I don't want to do shit. And now it's like, oh, I need to get another form of income. I need to run a fucking training site. Like, can I talk about these training sites? Like, every motherfucker has a training site now. Like, how many training sites do we need? Like, and like $150 a month, some of them are charging. And it's like, okay, like, I'm sure they're giving away some good information. And I'm not even going to say I'm an elite player because I'm not. I mean, I carve out a living, but I don't really love the game like I used to either. Like, I'm not making excuses. I probably would love it a lot more if I crushed it. But, like, there's no fucking way that, like, you're going to pay your like, Joe Schmo is going to pay $150 a month, and he's suddenly going to be crushing. Like, you need to already know the game. And that's a big problem for poker right now, is the barrier of entry. I don't know if that's the right term. But, like, to get into poker now, it's gonna take you years. It's going to take you a lot of hard work. You know what I'm saying? And these training sites are basically trying to exploit, you know, random people who just think to themselves, oh, he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? And obviously they're helping people. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not hating on training sites at all. Like,
sounded like you were.
Okay, no. I am. I'm not, okay, listen, that's the wrong. I'm not saying that training sites don't help people. I'm sure they do. But I don't know. It just seems very exploitative to me. And, you know, people like Berkey will tell you, oh, you need another income stream. And it's like, his income stream is still based in poker. And he's telling people that they can't make a living at it, basically. Like, oh, the rake's too high, get another form of income. What? I mean, I don't know.
Well, Dara, turning to you, there's two things I want to ask you to sort of pick out of what Lucas said there. The first one is regarding the WSOP, people complaining about the rake, which was very high. And what was very important about that was that it wasn't actually visible on their site. You had to kind of go looking for it. It wasn't like 500 plus 50. They just gave the one amount, and you're like, okay, how much of that is rake? That, in the first instance, is a little sly, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been that way with the WSOP. Even when it was, you know, the very first WSOP I went to, you were told the buy-in is 10,000 for the main event. The side event is 1,500, and it wasn't clear how much the rake was. That's just always been their business model. It's kind of spread online to other sites now as well. I mean, like, it's not clear how much when you click on the lobby of the Big 55, how much rake, how much rake is taken. You have to kind of drill down into different tabs and stuff. Very few sites even make it explicit anymore. It is part of the whole sort of like, well, we've been increasing the rake, and let's try and make it less obvious to people that that's been happening. And it's just downright bizarre. Like Luke said, you know, you have some very reasonable rake events, like 950 plus 50 is fine, even for an online event. But then you got a 700 plus 77. Like, and essentially all they've done as well is they've taken across their live rake structures to online. But I mean, online tournaments are a lot cheaper to run. There's no reason why online tournaments should charge the same percentage rake as live tournaments. You don't have to hire dealers. I mean, I don't need to go into it, but it's a lot cheaper. Maybe you could upgrade your servers with some of the rake, but that doesn't seem to have happened.
The structures have been dreadful too of the US ones. I don't know about the GG structures. I'm sure they're better. They're bad?
Well, sorry, your WSOP ones.
So the
WSOP ones are horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah, like I watched a bunch of the final tables, and it's all very shallow, and I don't know, man. Like, it's just, you know, I used to love the WSOP before, you know, 5-7 years ago. Even before they banned me, I was already fucking over them. But like, they've really embraced like a corporate approach to WSOP. Like, I don't know if you guys played the WSOP 10, 12 years ago, but it was like, it was for the players.
Yeah.
It was for the players. Like, you would go, and it was just the greatest thing, you know? It was just so amazing. And they had the best floor people. They had the best everything, you know? And they really got away from that, you know, when Jack really like took over, like when he became like not just the TD, but he became the vice president or whatever the fuck he is. And they really turned it into, you know, a money-making machine, which is fine. Like, you know, as Berkey would tell you, you know, that's how businesses work. But we need as poker players need to get together. Like I've been saying this for a few years. They need to get together and like take some of the power back, because that's the only way that anything's going to change. And I don't know how to accomplish that. I'm not going to pretend that I do, but it's very disturbing to see the direction that all poker operators seem to be going in. We used to have Stars back in the day. Stars was the best, you know, old Stars. And now what do we have? You know, I mean, Party Poker seems like they're decent. I don't know, like Rob Young, I'm not a big fan of his Twitter poll approach, but people seem to love him. You know what I mean? Like, I got blocked by Rob Young. I'm blocked by a lot of people, but I got blocked by Rob Young just because I said, hey, Rob, you know, maybe don't make company decisions based off the results of a Twitter poll. And that upset him. But, I mean, what do we have right now? Like, who's looking out for the best interest of the players? I just don't see anybody doing that. Any, you know, I don't know.
Well, I would obviously point over my shoulder to Unibet Poker. No, but I want to come back to you, Dara, as well, because there's a second point I wanted to ask you, which is Luke very articulately sort of broke down maybe the economic model of those training sites and how many training sites there are, and how they're not affordable. A lot of them are very expensive as well. So this is what I think they call in show business a softball. Dara, you're currently selling a book right now, which is a fraction of the cost of 1 month subscription to one of these training sites. And that will improve your game no end in probably the most popular format out there these days, PKOs. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I mean... I'm feeling under pressure now as somebody who does produce content which I charge money for. So
no, your books are amazing. Come on.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, the training thing is interesting because obviously they're not all the same. There are some ones who are better than others. I mean, there's a guy. I guess I shouldn't probably say his name, but he's doesn't have a great reputation in the poker industry apparently, but if you go onto his website, he's like offering coaching for $1,000 an hour or something, and like that's just absurd. I mean, you have people who are essentially just selling the lifestyle of, oh, I'm a big poker pro and I go around and I play all these big cash games that I get invited to, and now you can come on and I'll tell you to listen to whale music for an hour and that'll improve your game or something. There's a lot of really, really suspect stuff out there. Obviously good training sites as well, and obviously great literate content, but yeah, just before we move on from the structures, I mean, I didn't realize how just absurd the WSOP.com structures were until last night. One of my students sent me a hand from level 1 of the WSOP event they were playing and said, like, what should I have done in this spot? And I looked at the spot and said, like, I'm really not qualified to comment on single raise pots where we're 800 big blinds deep. It's like, when does that ever happen? It's just like, it's ludicrous. I have no idea what we're supposed to do in this spot. So they start out at 800 big blinds deep, and by the final table, it's 8 big blinds average. It's like back to front. It just makes zero sense.
They're just not trying. Nobody's trying. You know, whatever happened to trying? Like, okay, you want to charge high rate? Give me a great structure. Give me great customer support. People can't even, you know, get a response from the site, you know, and they just have the wrong people in charge. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's sad. It's only going to get worse too, is what it seems like to me. Well, it depresses me.
You need another income stream, Luke.
I do. I got my Twitter. I get $10 a year. I get $10 a year from everybody, you know. Yeah. That's been working out, you know, but it's hard because I have to root them out. I have to hunt them down for my $10. These people love my shit, but they can't give me $10. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. And then they badmouth me. There's a guy, I blocked him. He's been badmouthing me for a year. It's like, buddy, you loved me before I blocked you, and then you can't even give me. And back then it was $5, which is very reasonable. He wouldn't even send me $5. It's like, I'm trying to eat over here. Like, I'm not living lavishly. Like, you guys can't see my apartment. It's not fancy, okay? I'm not living it up over here. I gotta, you know, it's a respectable apartment. Don't get me wrong, but like, come on, man. Like, $10 a year. I mean, that's, you know, if I got 1,200 followers. I had to block 600 people though to get to where I am right now. And then, you know, I accept the donations, the run good donations. They work though. People send me money. They win tournaments. It can't be a coincidence. It can't be that they're elite poker players. It's me. It's all me.
Come on, people. He just needs $10 to put some gas in the Lamborghini. That's all he needs.
There's no point in having a fucking Lamborghini if you can't drive it because you can't afford gas. What's the point? I don't have car insurance. Do you know how much car insurance is on a Lamborghini? $3,000 a month, buddy. I can't, you know. I got to support my lifestyle.
Well, on that note, I know he is not everyone's cup of tea, but he is always our cup of tea here on the Chip Race. And now on the lock-in, Luke Vrabel, take a bow.
Let's do it again soon. I love you guys.